Hey there, friend. Today's episode feels a little special because, well, we're celebrating something extra special. It's our 1-year podcast anniversary. And I'm not sure if that's a real word, but we're going to use it. All right, but I did want to just take a moment and say thank you. Thank you for every moment that you've spent here with me over this last year. It's been such an honor sharing this space with you, and I am so grateful for the journey that we've been on together. Now, about today's episode, it's a little bit different. I'm kind of dropping you into the middle of the action because it actually came out of the conversation with Amanda Schaefer in episode 32. And while we were recording that, something unexpected happened, and Amanda actually flipped the script. So suddenly she became the interviewer and I was the one in the hot seat. So what unfolded was just this honest, fun conversation about how both our podcasts came to be. And it just seems so fitting to share it with you today on our 1-year podcast anniversary. So here we are, a celebration, a reflection, and a story of how it all began. So let's dive in.
I wanted to ask you why you're podcasting.
Why? A couple of reasons. So the ministry itself started back in 2016, beneath the fig tree, and it came from a place of I mentioned earlier that I didn't have that Titus 2 mentor. I didn't have that discipleship in my life. We were going to church, but it just didn't. I didn't have anybody that was walking with me, and I was desperate to get this relationship thing everybody kept talking about. And I would chase down, we had friends who would each month they would host in their house something called Worship with the Word, where we would just worship together and then we would just read scripture or whatever, and different things like that over the course of 5, 10, 12 years of just, even though I wasn't connecting, even though I wasn't getting it, I was just driven to keep chasing him. And the only way I knew to do it was to hang around people that seemed to have that relationship with God that I wanted. So all I could do is just stay close to them. And eventually, at one point, it was about 2014, 2015, 2016, I realized, oh my goodness, I have that relationship that all those years, 20 years, I chased. And for years, I felt like I was on the outside looking in, and I couldn't figure out the secret password to get in with these people, but I just hung around with them. And at one point, I realized I have this relationship where I'm talking to God throughout my day as though he's right beside me, because he is, and I'm hungry for his word, and I'm hungry to spend time with him, and I love worship. And I was like, how did I get here? When did this happen? What happened? And so then God started showing me kind of in little ways, like how that happened, where that was. And so out of that came something. At the time I started it by developing an online intensive where I, through Facebook Live, had a private group. And I just said, hey, ladies, I feel like God is calling me to this thing. Would you go through this with me while I figure it out? So it started out with a group of 10 women, the beta group or the figs. And it was an 8-week intensive that God and I developed together. It was basically the keys. Back then we called it 6 keys to devotional life that you love. It has since expanded a little bit, but I always knew that workshop was supposed to be in print form in some way.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, I was asked to take this full-time job. So for 3 years, I had to completely lay Fig Tree down, not knowing if God would ever bring me back to it, but just so missed it. And then in 2022, God said, okay, let's go, let's start. And so the only thing I knew to do was start the website and kind of start connecting myself with other Christian communicators. And one of those groups that I was in back then had where you could have an appointment with the publisher. And so I did a 15-minute appointment with, I think she was an acquisitions editor, actually. And so I just said, this is what I'm thinking. This is eventually going to become a book. But the reason I want to talk to you right now today is, how do I, because you guys are going to want a platform, what is your best recommendation? How do I start to build the platform or the audience that you guys are looking for? And she said, well, first off, I really love the book project and I want to see it when it's ready, when you're ready. But here's some things. And the number one thing she said was podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had already, when I started Beneath the Fig Tree, I was doing video. And
Yeah.
so I had a YouTube channel before I laid it Fig Tree down to, and a lot of times during that 3 years of I called that the winter, fig trees winter, some dormancy. During the fig trees winter, I kept thinking I should close that YouTube channel down because they're still asking for resources and I don't have time to give them anything more. But I
Mhm.
didn't close it. It kept growing. It kept, even though I wasn't doing more videos, it kept the audience for it kept growing and they kept reaching
Mhm.
out to me. And so shifting into podcasts wasn't that big a deal because I just take the videos that I was doing and strip the audio and send it over to. So that was easy. Now, since then, I've kind of changed the format and what that looks like. But the reason ultimately that I'm podcasting first is because the acquisitions editor said, this is
Mhm.
really, I think, how you do it. But second, because I love being able to connect in this way. And so there's a whole audience of people that won't find the YouTube videos that they're finding the podcast. And so
Yeah.
it's just a way for me
Yeah,
to be
they're different.
them.
They're
Yeah, yeah,
they're different
totally different.
audiences,
Yeah,
but that's what I've found is like use what's in your hand. Take
yeah,
that same message because God's given each one of us really
yeah,
distinct messages and take it everywhere you can. Share it everywhere you can. And I'm so glad I asked
yeah,
because the whole time you were talking, the interviewer, podcaster in me was like, yep, 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 yep. Because that's what God does. He's
yeah,
laying out this plan step by step, and we don't realize it till we
yeah,
turn around and look back,
yep,
you know.
yeah,
And it's funny because I've heard from a lot of people that they were told to start a podcast, and God just cut out the middleman and told me himself. You know?
yeah,
So by the time that I came out from my winter time of
yeah,
hibernating with my parents in the
yeah,
pandemic, I already had, the platforms and
yeah,
it's been the best thing I never knew I wanted to do. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah, yeah.
I
Me
can
too.
tell you love it too.
Yeah, oh, I do. Yeah. It's just, it's a way to connect more, I feel like, than, social media. And honestly, I have a love hate with social media, but
Me too.
this feels more, I know that this has an impact more than the social media because on my YouTube videos, they'll email me, they'll reach out, on the
Mhm,
podcast, they'll email like everywhere you
mhm,
go, my email is out there. And so they're reaching out, which is funny. You don't know necessarily, I don't know a lot of times that they're even watching other than like, YouTube gives me this, okay, this many hours have been watched, but
mhm,
they don't necessarily comment on the videos themselves or do even the like themselves, which the
mhm.
publisher would really like to see. But I know that they're watching and listening
Yeah.
because they're taking the time to actually go email me.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah,
And honestly, for me, I just had a recent thing where I was praying about is bigger, better. I had an opportunity and I felt like it was going to change what
yes, yes,
the
yes,
why is how God, kind of got me started. And the why is so important. And then
yeah,
he told me exactly how to do it. And so when I saw that, I decided not to because I really believe that the connection that you're talking about, connecting with one person, I'll take that over a million
yeah,
likes, follows.
yeah, yeah,
A real
definitely,
connection. And that's the thing, like we're on the internet now, and I feel like it's the same as when God, and we probably went way over your time limit, sorry. But it's the same as when God, said to Moses, like, I will give you every place where you set your foot. Well, this is
yeah,
land.
yeah,
This is like
absolutely,
territory.
yep,
And so I think God is using this time to send us all over the world.
yeah,
And there are people that are ready
yeah.
and they need to connect with someone. So
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. No, I love it. I'm here because God pointed me here. So,
yeah.
and I try to and I'll be honest, I was a little bit hesitant. I'm like, do I really have time
Mhm,
to add one more thing? And podcasting was something I had to learn. I was worried about the technical stuff, but it was actually really easy.
mhm.
But when I realized that the video and this, I could just pull the audio off the video, like that made
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
that was easy. So yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
not a big thing. So just a little bit of editing. Thanks again for a wonderful year. I hope you've enjoyed this special 1-year podcast anniversary episode. Chat soon, friend.